We've all been fans of something in our time, had a crush on a celebrity that we one day hope to marry, or maybe even got a tattoo to showcase our love for our chosen fandom. Britain has had many successful fan bases, from the Beatles to Doctor Who, Harry Potter and One Direction. The beginning of British fan bases arguably started in the 1960s, as four lads from Liverpool dominated the music scene and Beatlemania was formed.
I first became interested in the Beatles in 1963 at the young age of 4, when I used to hear their records on the radio and thinking how different they were to everybody else that was in the charts at the time. My parents knew I was enjoying the music and would buy me a single if I did well at school, so that's really where my collection started. And this piece here is the first piece of memorabilia I ever got. My interest in the group continued, and gradually I was getting books, magazines and stuff. After they'd split up in the 70s, I continued to follow all 4 Beatles solo careers and continued to collect the records, eventually cassettes, CDs, books, magazines, anything with the Beatles on really came into my collection, which has just grown and grown over the years. My first concert was 1976 when I saw Paul's group Wings at Wembley. I then went on to make a video with Paul and Ringo in 1982 at Elstree Studios, where I met both of them as well as producer George Martin. My interest in the group has just continued to this day, and in 2005 I became treasurer of the fan club. If I had to pick a favourite today, it would be John, Paul, George and Ringo.
With the Beatle fandoms ever growing, there's many ways a fan can share their love for the band. Let It Be is a musical that brings people together to listen to the music. Fan clubs help people to communicate with each other all year round. Conventions allow people to come together and even meet people that they've become attached to. Doctor Who became popular in the 1960s and has been dominating UK's TV ever since. Conventions such as the Woovers have guest speakers who have worked on the show to discuss their involvement and love with the fans.
So I've been a fan of the Doctor Who franchise for as long as I can remember, since about 5 years old, watching with my dad, so most of my life. I think what really first drew me to the show was the imagination behind it. When you're a 5-6-year-old child watching it and they can go in the police box, in the TARDIS, they can go anywhere in time, forwards, backwards. I just found it very exciting, the adventure behind it all, really.
The thing that first drew me to the show was, I suppose it was the whole science fiction element of it, and the fact that it seems all grown up from 5-year-old me and just stuck with me. My favourite Doctor would probably be Sylvester McCoy. That I think combines the silliness of Who, how the Doctor's the big clown and everyone loves, but also the serious and quite scariness of the Doctor.
My favourite Doctor is John Pertwee. He played it the most seriously. He was a man of action and he dressed very smartly, and he had incredible authority as the Doctor.
I think it is a great way for fans to come together and meet everyone in the convention atmosphere, as it's just a way to incorporate ideas and share loves.
I came to this convention today because it was a guest I had never seen previously. Having been to conventions for over 20 years, it's always very interesting to see somebody you haven't seen before. How much has the Doctor Who fan base changed? A great deal. I think the conventions now are more commercial, but events like the Hoovers, are like the old days in the 90s when I first started to go into conventions, where you just did it for the love and it wasn't done to make a lot of money. So,
if I compare Doctor Who from when I first started watching it to what it is now, with social media and not being what it was back then coming on later, it's definitely changed a lot, and especially as I feel like it's gained more worldwide fame in the recent years.
I think you can become too obsessive and it can dominate your whole life, but I think it's great if it's part of your life amongst other things, really. So I think it's just a matter of balance.
I think being a fan is actually one of the best things that ever happened to me, of being a fan base of something so big and so brilliant. I do admit it does take from my life. Like if when I'm meant to be doing media work, I end up doing Doctor Who work instead. I still think it's the best thing that's ever happened to me and I wouldn't change it for anything.
It's not just conventions that bring fans together these days. Harry Potter has its own studio tour dedicated to all the sets and memorabilia from the films. It's a place where thousands of fans flock to see their favourite films come to life. Harry Potter has been Britain's biggest fandom since the books were published in the 1990s. It has now been over a decade, and the popularity means that even universities have created societies dedicated to this franchise.
I've been a fan of Harry Potter since I was like 6, I think. What drew me to the franchise was the fact that my brother liked it, so I read the books and then I got hooked. My favourite character is Professor McGonagall because she's just hilarious and sassy in the books, and she just comes out with like the best one-liners. I have quite a lot of merchandise, probably adds up to like £150. I think Harry Potter has such a big fan base because the characters are actually like real characters, and the stories, even though it's like completely made up and in a different world, they kind of involve aspects of like normal human life so people can relate to them more. I think being a fan of something is a good thing because it gives you an interest, but I think if you get too obsessed with it, then it can cause a problem because like if you spend like loads of money on getting like ridiculously expensive merchandise and then like put yourself in debt and stuff, then obviously that's like not good. I think the Harry Potter fandom's like developed over time, and like with the use of Pottermore and stuff, it's become a lot more online and like interactive than it has been when it first started, as most people grew, like who are using the online platforms and like conventions and stuff, grew up with Harry Potter. So like as they grew up and technology evolved and like their lives evolved, then the fandom had to evolve. I won a tweeting contest for the Harry Potter studio tour where I won about £100 worth of Harry Potter like merchandise that got sent to me in a big box, and it was really cool. It's like Christmas.
In the past decade, there has been some new fandom emerge, One Direction. They may not have won the X Factor in 2010, but they are superior over other fan bases when it comes to having Britain's biggest superfans. The use of social media has allowed young people to connect all over the world and share their passion for One Direction.
I've been a fan of One Direction since they were formed on the X Factor in 2010. I have lots of merchandise. I have books, calendars, posters, CDs, DVDs, and it'd probably be over £2,000 worth of merchandise. My favourite member is Niall because he's really cute and I met him 4 years ago, and he played What Makes You Beautiful on the guitar to me.
I've been a fan of One Direction for about 1.5 years when their album 4 was released. My favourite member of One Direction has to be Harry because of his sense of humour, his poor dance moves and just everything about him. I have pretty much all of their albums, blankets, pillows and books, and I think it all add up to just over £100 maybe.
I think being a fan of something can be a good thing and a bad thing, because it can be quite time consuming, but then again it can be a good thing because you can meet like lots of new people and make friends and things.
I think it's important to talk to other fans over social media of the band because you can make new friends and people who understand you and understand your love.
I think the members are good role models. They can have times when they slip up and things, but it's natural to be like that and you don't have to be perfect all the time.
Communicating with the band online is quite important to a lot of fans because it reminds you that they're not just media trained monkeys and that they are real people and they are there to kind of help out.
I think it's really important that you can contact the band things over social media because then it lets you know that they're not like just there to make money and stuff, that they can contact with the fans and that's the reason like you like them so much. I'd probably class myself as a super fan, but I wouldn't say I was that obsessed.
For now I would class myself as just a fan, but I'm having an ever-growing love for them, so I'm sure in years' time I'll be a super fan.
There are lots of fandoms in the world today. Some have been going for over 50 years and their fan bases still continue to grow. We'll all experience being a fan at some point in our lives, and it's obvious to see that fandoms bring happiness and enable people from all over the world to connect and share their passions.